Namaskar and welcome to this exciting episode of Sattology, debunking mythology. Sattology means science of truth or study of truth. Opposite of that is mythology, which means science or study of fake, lie, or imagination. We should never use the word mythology for the ancient in history because it just shows that it was a fake, lie, or imagination. Instead, we should use Sattology because it means it is a real and it happens, it has happened, and it's just an adjective. If you're speaking in any other language other than English or European language, then Sanskrit shows itihas, Sanskrit word itihas, which means as it happened. So I have a very special guest, and we're going to talk about economics all over the world. And so let's welcome Sumit Mehta from Mumbai. Namaskar, Sumit.
Namaste. Good
Namaste.
morning to everyone.
Good morning. So one of the questions comes in the economy. The whole world, Americans just yesterday saw the report, and maybe last week or something, 8.3% inflation. And 8.3% is going to go worse. And Indian inflation is around 4% right now, 4 or 5%, which is normal, considered normal. If you don't have 4 or 5% inflation, that means you're not producing anything or the economy is not growing. Earlier, I still welcome higher inflation was welcomed because it just shows the economy is heating up and there is a more demand for the product. So, in today's perspective, how do you visualize the global economic environment and Indian economics as compared to that?
Now, I will put across this a very interesting question. This has been a point of debate in India as well. That how is India performing vis-a-vis its global peers? First, very important thing we have to understand is the way India got impacted, or rather, the global economy got impacted during the pandemic and the lockdown. But India was fast enough to revive and bounce back from that. And now what we are seeing, the post Ukraine war situation, is something very unique. The Western economy is hurt because of, first, the supply shortages arising due to the sanctions that they have imposed on Russia. So they are now facing a fuel shortage. Inflation has started rising because of that. Then there is a food grain shortage because Russia and Ukraine were the food bowl for the world, and there has been blockage over there, and there have been supply disruptions for wheat and sunflower oil. Sunflower oil disruptions have even hurt India to quite a lot, a huge extent. So I believe this war is going to hit the West, especially Europe and America, very heavily on due to rising fuel cost and supply chain shortages, especially in food. Now compare that with India. India numbers, inflation is now touching around 6%, which is a matter of concern in India. Whereas US is much higher, other countries are even higher. India has shown one of the highest GDP growths of 13%, which we can discount it a bit due to the base effect of a lower base in the first quarter of last year. India follows a financial year which is from April to March. So in India, accounting and numbers come for the quarter based on financial year. So this was our first quarter for which of the financial year 2023, for which the numbers were released. So I'm making this as a point of clarification because in US it goes by the calendar year, and here we go as per the financial year. So there should not be, at least we can reduce the issues arising due to communication issue, or we can say confusion. My view is inflation in India is also a concern, but if we break down the inflation numbers, we'll see a large part of this is also due to global inflation, or what we can say as imported inflation, because commodity prices, be it crude oil, be it all the raw commodities, iron ore, coal, they all have increased. Shipping costs have increased. Transportation costs have increased, so that has resulted in inflation going up. In India, we have a broad number or a thumb rule that is followed by the fixed income market, is that for every 1 rupee increase in gasoline prices, within a month, ideally 21 days, on the higher side 30 days, the wholesale price index has an impact of 25 basis points. So this is the kind of direct correlation between increase in fuel prices and its impact on wholesale price inflation. I believe the inflation in India may rise, and at the same time, India will also see an increase in rates, because India has followed Fed on the rate parts, policy rates. Whenever Fed increased the rates, we have also followed the suit. At max, we waited for a month or two to increase the rates, but given the fact that there is a huge foreign institutional investment by hedge funds in government securities, treasury bills, we'll have to match US, otherwise there will be a flight of capital. And increase in interest rates is also going to have an impact on the bottom lines of the companies who are borrowing, and also the project cost, because large part of the projects are borrowed. This will also have an impact on the fiscal deficit, because the government's outgo on interest will increase, which is again inflationary. So we are in that very vicious cycle, I can say, where there is imported inflation, there is a rate hike in United States, which is resulting in a rate hike in India, and all this in turn will have result in higher fiscal deficit, and which is again inflationary. So we are not insulated from the global pressures, but as of now, where we sit, we are on a much more comfortable ground. Inflation in urban areas, we can say the food inflation is very much under control, because in India we have food inflation and we have non-food inflation, and again rural and urban. But when we go down to rural areas, there is definitely a problem, because there is a little bit of pressure being felt, and consumption has reduced, rural consumption has reduced. So if again government has to trigger rural consumption, they will have to increase the minimum support price for food grains and cereals, so that there is higher disposable income in the hands of farmers, which will trigger the rural spending. Now coming back to very important part, what is MSP? MSP is minimum support price. This is a policy in India wherein government buys food grains and cereals from farmers at a fixed price, which is called as MSP. And government is one of the single largest individual buyer or institutional buyer of food grains in the Indian agriculture market. So again, that will have an impact on inflation, because if we increase the MSP, it will in turn result in higher food inflation in urban areas. So it's a very, this is like putting all the pieces of puzzle together. We try to stitch some things on some part, and then it will have an impact. But that is how economics is all about. Will not have a perfect world. However, explaining the whole gamut of situations that we face in India, I think we are much better. We are in a much better position. The world right now knows that we are buying crude oil from Russia at a much discounted price, nearly 30%. And now India is negotiating even with Iran. Iran itself offered that if you can buy Russian crude, why not buy Iranian crude? And Iranian crude is very much adaptable with most of the PSU owned refineries in India, who are designed to operate to process light sweet crude, which we get from Iran. So I think if that happens again, we'll have some leg room or elbow room for us to manage the inflation part. So this is a brief understanding of the economy that I have shared.
No, one of the principal questions comes in, like so if you look at the today the American economic framework, and we are hit. I'm saying I am hit badly with the American economy today, and I can say that it was, I've never seen like this ever since I came to this country. We always felt assured that good economy, and we were assured of like like somewhere in the back of the mind was Feds will intervene and everything will be controlled. And and today I am seeing for the first time, and I'll give you my live experience. I went in California to a small town just yesterday, and I found the stores were empty, shelves were empty. I never saw that in the US ever before, and I'm seeing from the first eyes. I'll put the pictures on my Instagram. People who want to follow me on Instagram is my full name, no space, Aditya Satsangi. So you can follow me there. I'll put the pictures over there. Now, this was never seen before. And I'm seeing now Europe has food shortages. And with all the immigrants going to Europe, the first thing European governments are going to do is give to their own citizens and then to the refugees and other immigrants. Same with the jobs. Europe has a much stricter requirement for jobs. You have to know their local language. Otherwise, you don't get a job there. You can't speak English over there and get a job. Unlike USA, which is a British colony, so we are in English. We speak English majority. But what do you think is going to be the food situation in next 3 to 5 years?
3 to 5 years is too long a period. We have to see if in case the Ukraine war gets over tomorrow, then we will see food shortages issue getting resolved very quickly. But that is unlikely. Today, lot of food and fertilizers is lying on the ports, and President Putin has made a statement that he would, and it was in the release by the government of Germany after the federal chancellor, had a conference call with President Putin, that they would work on releasing the food and fertilizer which is stuck up at European ports. Now, what I understand from this whole situation is, till this war continues, there will be a supply blockade for food, fertilizers in the world, because both Russia and Ukraine were one of the largest manufacturers, are largest manufacturers of potash fertilizers. Even we are facing problems in India because of that, and the fertilizer prices have increased significantly in India. But if this continues, the West will have to look at alternate sources for food grains. Now, which are the other food bowls in the world? One is India, one is Australia, New Zealand. Now, shipping anything from Australia and New Zealand to Europe is going to be a very arduous job because of the logistics cost which is involved. India is quite positioned in the center so that logistics cost can be optimized, and they can have a balance of price of the material or the food grains that they buy vis-a-vis the price of cost of shipping the same. That is not the case with New Zealand and Australia, and that is why probably New Zealand and Australia don't figure out in their global plans for sourcing food grains, whereas India does. India has also very cautiously ensured that there is no hoarding of wheat globally, especially by sourcing wheat from India and hoarding it. And we have imposed a export duty on rice, as well as we have banned exports of wheat. Now wheat can be exported only on a government to government supply, and Indian government is doing a wonderful job. They are providing wheat to needy nations who are poor and who need the support, and who also need to be protected from global hoarding of food. So there are many speculators who are involved in this activity. There were news that India will be withdrawing from will not be supplying, and all those kind of things. There were reports of lesser rainfall resulting in lower supply of wheat and rice. These are all ways and means to create a shock in the international market, with various hedge funds or speculators being involved in it. I believe there could be possibly a marginal reduction, but it is too early to say, in food production. But India remains on a good position. Rice is definitely there. Recently, uh, Ministry of External Affairs with a delegation of traders and others had visited Southeast Asian nations to understand their requirement for rice and wheat and provide them the adequate stock. So I feel my view is India is well positioned to take care of the world. Prime Minister Modi as well as our Commerce Minister Mr. Goel, Piyush Goel, have made statements that we are very confident that we can feed the whole world, which is a very big statement. At the same time, we have to be cautious that it is not about financial intermediaries and speculators and holders who will be buying it, but government has to interfere. We can't have a laissez-faire economy in this situation. We need government to interfere to ensure that needy nations get the food grains and they can feed the poor instead of it getting held in some warehouses in some corners of the world.
See, the one of the uh, see the global economy runs on who has the more military strength. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? I think your screen is frozen.
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Okay. So the global economy works on.
Yeah, there was a uh,
Yeah, yeah. I think you have to check your internet connection because it's your screen is not moving. It's
yeah,
frozen.
it is a bit unstable. It is reduced a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the global
Yes.
economy.
Is it better now? I can hear
Uh,
you now.
yeah, I can hear you, but I cannot see you moving. So that's a problem. Yeah. Anyway, no problem. I'll if you can hear me, I'll just ask the
Hmm.
next question.
Ha.
Okay. So the global
Hmm.
economy runs on military strength. I why I say that all the time is, if you look at the colonial period, say 1600s, 1700s, 1800s. Now the reason Europe became rich was because their militaries were invading all the lands and controlling the economic resources of their colonies. They settled in Americas to get the land for their people, and they controlled the resources, and that's how their economy boomed. So it was purposely directed that anyone who is with the West, which means Europeans, is that's what mean West means. And because they settled in Australia, so Australia is also called the West because it's just Europeans. So anyone who agreed with them became rich because they had the military muscle. Even today, a small country like UK sends its naval forces in Asia Pacific. Today also, today is same thing happening which happened in 200, 300, 400 years back. Same thing happening. In the name of Indo-Pacific, all their forces are here. I mean, what is the need of British forces to send their aircraft carrier in the Malaya Straits or their destroyers? And what is the need of Australia to fight with China when China is a neighbor? Because they don't consider China as a neighbor. Their neighbor in their mind is UK, which is almost 12,000. It takes the longest flight between US and is between US and Australia. So it's a mental thing. It's a mental image they have. India, they're very happy India is regional. The day India says they're going to open a military port in South America, I'm telling you, all the Pentagon antennas will be up because it's their sphere of,
Naturally.
you know.
Naturally.
But
Rather, even now, if you remember, President Trump had declassified a strategic framework for Indo-Pacific. And if we read, it's a 8-page document, but very honest to their own selves, if not to India or China for that matter. The document reads that in US will partner with China wherever beneficial. And when you read the whole 8-page document, you will realize that they need India only as a counter against the rising hegemony of China in the region, and that too with a specific intent to ensure that American interests in the region are not affected. Today, when we look at the way China is bullying America, it is very obvious that America needs someone to counter China. Otherwise, all the smaller countries in the region will prefer to shift to China instead of being American allies. So it's a very Machiavellian game that America is playing of using India against China and again partnering with China wherever it is beneficial to them. All they need is India being a pawn on the strategic chessboard of America's foreign policy and geostrategic policy to further American interest. And I think Prime Minister Modi is not compliant with the American larger game plan. That is my personal view. Aditya ji.
I'll give one. In the diplomatic circles, I was very happy with Jai Shankar. I really admire that person. And even before I used to admire him, but I admire him much more because that man has done a very clear thing. He has a very clear thinking, and he speaks to the audience directly. He doesn't speak in diplomatic circles, speaks directly what he wants to say. And he has brought about a drastic change in the Indian Foreign Service, which is, I really appreciate because it helps us, Indian Americans, a lot. Today, the pride in which we can stand in this country also, like I have been always saying I'm a Hindu because that was a religion. Then now I'm also say that I am an Indian. So that because of the pride. Earlier, I did not have that pride because with the Manmohan Singh governments and other governments, we knew that the Indian government is not going to do anything for us. So we used to say we are Hindus. But now I also say I'm an Indian. I'm a proud Indian because I'm proud of the government which they are doing, and I know will stand for us if there is a need, you know, because this country can go in any direction. It's still a colony. So the uh, the question I have is this the new diplomacy that they have done with India. Many countries are looking to India because see the economy flows with the strength. Wherever they say nation is strong, money is going to follow. It's like dharma and earth. Earth always follows dharma.
Hmm.
So country being strong is dharmic, means it is dharmic. It is standing on sound. Dharma doesn't mean religion. So in any case, so when the country is strong, economy is going to flow. Water pan is just like a water. It's just going to flow automatically. So many countries are looking for India, and you'll be shocked to know, as someone to stand against America because they're tired, and against Chinese also, because both the countries, both the Chinese and USA, have done the same game. America traps through IMF and World Bank. Chinese trap through their own framework. India is in the middle, which is standing to both of them. And even Russia now gaining more money after the war. Their economy is the strongest ever in the last 70 years today.
Yes, rather when they converted oil trade from dollars to ruble and pegged it against gold, the way the ruble has strengthened. Now
Yeah,
Russia is forced to buy foreign currency, including yuan, to weaken the ruble so that they can continue exporting. So that is something
exactly.
nobody could imagine that
Nobody did.
President Putin and Russia could give it back to US in this manner. I think somewhere President Biden has gone wrong in his assessment and has erred in taking this kind of actions against Russia.
And the energy crisis which is hitting. I mean, in California, I'm just following what Californian government does, and they're telling me to switch off the ACs between 6 and 9 at the peak of the summer, and I'm doing that. And nobody before that. I never thought that I'll have to ration electricity in this country. I'm doing it today, and
That is no.
it reminds me of my days in India where going electricity going off was considered very normal. If if electricity goes off for 8 hours, it's pretty normal. If it goes more than 8 hours, it is a problem. But now, when I check my with my friends in Delhi and other places, they have 24/7 electricity, and there is no blackouts. And interiors, yes, there are. And most of the people do not know interiors in USA have the same problem. Load shedding is very common in the interiors of the USA.
Before Devendra Fadnavis took over the charge of Maharashtra, rather after 2014 up to 2019, load shedding or power tripping in Maharashtra reduced significantly. After Devendra Fadnavis government was toppled, illicit government was formed by Shiv Sena allying with Congress and NCP. We used to see regular load shedding for half an hour, 45 minutes, and that too twice or thrice a day. Now that has reduced significantly to maybe 5-10 minutes in a day, that too on the higher side. Okay, that is the kind of, and very funny thing is, I was reading a tweet by the German officials. They said that they are looking at flattening the curve, and there was a response by one person that in Nala Sopara, which is a suburb in of extended suburb of Bombay, we call it load shedding. So I just made a joke that okay, we probably need to find good words from European dictionary like flattening the curve instead of using the outdated words like load shedding to discuss about power shortage in the country. Anyways, Aditya ji.
My question is now, which where I was coming to was I lost track, so I had to check my notes. I don't prepare
Mm-hmm.
questions. Okay, when I'm talking with you, the way you give the answer, I keep writing them.
Mm-hmm.
So the one of the questions which was there, Indian Navy made a port call to Brazil, USA. It was in San Diego too, and we had INS Satpura here, and making all the port calls, Hawaii, and on the eastern sea, I think in the eastern front there is no ship came, but that was a wake up call for many countries. See, there is a subtle message being sent by the Indian diplomacy. Hey, we are backing it up with a military force. That's the message, and it was a very smart move. Nowhere in on the this seafront, and see the Mexican ships and all those ships are very small ships. Mexican Navy is like like I would call it the Indian Coast Guard, not more powerful than that. But the way the Indian port call was made, it was a wake up call in San Diego, which is not a business town; it's a navy town. So it makes more news here. Like somebody has a better ship than us. What is the point? And that too, it was a made in India ship. I don't know how they chose the ships. Also, it was all made in India. So when it made a port call, I had a meeting with one of the, somebody was interviewing me on a local TV channel here, and they asked me one question: what do you think of that? Why did India send a ship here? I said, without Indian Navy, American ships cannot operate in India, in the Indian Ocean. So it's natural for Americans to oblige. Otherwise, there is no equality. And so these things they actually add to the economic muscle. Otherwise, the money is not going to investment is not going to flow. Even during this worst time of USA is the world's largest FDI attractor than any other country because
That is bound.
the people invest when there is security. Now my question comes in, like if you look at Ayodhya, Dwarka, I- coming back to Hastinapur, all these empires, I would say empires because everyone was under Hastinapur, they were strong because they were very strong militarily. And Yudhishthir Maharaj never even tolerated or never said to any of his enemies he's not going to attack. Enemies were always confused that India is going to, like the Hastinapur is going to attack. So that's how they protected Dharma. That when that kind of mindset comes in, then everybody comes in line. See, so do you think that kind of change might come in the Indian foreign policy? Because that is going to help everybody.
See, my assessment about the defense and the foreign policy part is first, government has become much more assertive. It has grown a spine which we never had since 1947 up to 2014, except for barring one incident, that is 1971, when India really stood up against America in ensuring that Pakistan is broken into two pieces. What see is we have a projection of strength which will happen very slowly because we are right now working on building up our own defense capabilities. We have ignored that for a very long time, and I remember a speech made by the current National Security Advisor of India, Mr. Doval, and he said that why has India never focused on building defense capabilities from manufacturing itself, which we never did since 1947. There was an era when India was manufacturing weapons of its own, from where we post independence we moved into solely being dependent on Russia, that was Soviet Union, and mainly France, and to some extent Scandinavian countries, largely Sweden, for sourcing defense equipments, hardware largely, and even Germany to a great extent. Now we have started working on Make in India to the extent that Tejas aircrafts, these are light combat aircrafts, we are negotiating with various governments on exporting Tejas. Our defense exports has touched around 40,000 crores, that is 400 billion rupees, which is huge. We have never done this kind of exports in the history since independence. I believe first thing is government is trying to say that we would love to live peacefully with everyone. However, if push comes to shove, we are ready, and we have seen that in the way government has dealt with Pakistan after Pulwama, after Uri, and with China in Galwan Valley. This has never happened in the past. So I will not go long in a long term domain because that is not my subject. But whatever I am able to understand, friendship and association with everyone, and at the same time maintaining integrity and strength. Today, India is also attracting so much of foreign capital. What is the reason? Reason is they know that in a turbulent world, India is an oasis of growth and stability under this particular leadership of Prime Minister Modi. And that is why money is coming. Otherwise, why would Foxconn invest in Maharashtra? Why would around 80,000 crore rupees of foreign investment come in PLI scheme in Uttar Pradesh? Uttar Pradesh was like the badlands of India where nobody will want to invest. And if something is coming in Uttar Pradesh, that shows that the country is stable. We have a good leadership. We are strong. The leadership of the country is well poised to defend its interest on the national and international platform. And of course, there are a lot of games happening to undermine India on that. But then, too, Prime Minister Modi's leadership is ensuring that there is stability, security of the country, and there's no need to worry about the money being invested in the country.
No, no, Anil Agarwal is a very close family friend of mine.
Oh,
So,
wonderful.
so, so we used to be do japa together.
Mm-hmm.
So he's a very close dharmic person and a
Mm-hmm.
very, very good individual. Personally, I know he's older to me in age, but we are almost like friends. And he was refused the plant in Odisha, if you recall, copper
I
smelting
remember that was during Congress tenure, the alumina refinery that he wanted to set up
and copper in and also in
in
Tamil
Himgiri
Nadu.
Hills.
Tamil Nadu also
Tamil Nadu was the worst.
worst.
I have written an article today. I am waiting for it to get published. I'll share it with you. And I've very critically analyzed two things. First thing is what could be the reason why Mr. Agarwal and Vedanta, along with Foxconn, chose Gujarat over Maharashtra. And one of them is the political stability. Today in Maharashtra, nobody can understand what would happen because the mainstream parties are behaving like fringe. And we have seen the way the Save RA campaign was run to,
Even after Eknath Shinde, like the new chief
Eknath
minister,
Shinde is now with us. It is BJP who is running the show to large extent. Devendra Fadnavis is handling finance and home ministry, and brings a lot of experience from his prior experience as the chief minister. Plus, of course, the BJP policy is there, so that is not a concern. But still, these people can derail anything. Today, Aditya Thackeray, when in that pre 2019 period when his party was part of the government, and he went to the extent of opposing and working like a leftist, I'm sure Mr. Agarwal would have deliberated on these things that tomorrow that can happen again with parties like Congress, NCP, and Shiv Sena agitating and stopping the chip plant in Maharashtra. Instead, might as well be in Gujarat, because in Gujarat that cannot happen. So, Aditya ji, here there is a very big concern of foreign funding coming into India for these kind of agitations. When Mr. Agarwal's Vedanta, or rather we can say the Sterlite copper smelter was, the whole agitation happened to stop it. It was funded by Chinese via London. Money came in from London to fund all the NGOs in India who ran the agitation. So it was a, more of a mercenary army instead of the army of well-meaning environmental activists. So there is a concern, and I think Mr. Agarwal knew that Gujarat is a safer place than Maharashtra to invest in. Aditya ji.
You see, the thing is like if there is, see, the economic sentiments are built on the majority of population. And the majority, I mean, people may say 79% Hindus or 76%, but I will say, because these numbers are fudged numbers, I would say that India is still 95% Hindu. And the majority, and it's my assessment, and I may be totally wrong, but people can try to, but the numbers, I don't believe in the numbers which are published in the media, because Hindu in a mindset, majority of people are peace-loving people, majority of people, 95. Nobody wants to hurt their family or their wife or the children. And that is the sentiment which carries the economy, stock markets, everywhere. And the security of them is maintained by the state polices everywhere, whether it's the USA or India or anywhere else. The Americans realized that if they were defunding the police, then the economic uncertainty increases. It feeds into inflation. Now, recently, under Eknath chief ministership, some Hindu saints were again hurt, and it came out in the media. Now
In
that
Sangli.
in Sangli. Now, and I know that district very well. I've been there many times when I was small, and it is one of the most beautiful parts of Maharashtra. I love everything over there, including Bhel Puri and Suki Bhel. Whatever you get. It's beautiful. It's amazing place. When such incidents happen, it gives message to an investor. If I'm an investor, if you sneeze, I catch cold, because we are naturally risk averse. If there is a risk, we run away, because that's the nature of investment. It's anywhere. Nobody wants to put their money somewhere where there is no security. I mean, that's why the Chinese are pulling out of Pakistan, and CPEC is dead now because there's no security over there. And they realize that they're trying to build on somebody else's land. Balochistan doesn't belong to Pakistan. It belongs to India, basically. They'll want to merge with India any day they want. But the point is that if such incidents happen, most of the people do not realize that they're actually putting an axe on their own feet. State governments don't realize. And the state policies in India, I have seen, and the majority of them come easily under the influence of politicians. Policing should be completely separate. It should have no interference by any politician whatsoever. Just like in the US, even Nancy Pelosi's husband can be caught, even today. So he was caught by the police for drinking under influence, driving under influence.
In India, that doesn't happen, because if Nancy Pelosi's husband is in India, he'll say, "Do you know who I am?"
That's what he said. He said to the police, and the officer said, he exactly said, "You don't know me, who I am." Exactly, he said. And the police said, "Sir, I'm just talking about the." The police officer was firm. He said, "I'm just doing my duty. If you're driving
You're
an
going to say, "I care a damn," whereas in India, they will salute him.
yeah,
See,
but
this is where we need police reforms. This was the second point I was coming to, and Aditya ji, you have raised a very interesting point and a very serious issue. I am sure you would have read about the Vasuli Gate thing, that one police officer was given a target of 1 billion rupees per month
that's
of
right.
extortion, and police was running the extortion racket. And to the extent that for the knowledge of the American viewers, in Bombay there is something called dance bar. So dance bar is a bar or a lounge where you can booze, and there are girls who will be dancing in the front. Okay, so for people's entertainment. So it is a mix, and we cannot dance over there. Men cannot dance, but it is also involved with a little bit of prostitution, and it is illegal in a way. After the Supreme Court banned this kind of illegal dance bars, which was used for flesh trade. Most of the girls again in all these dance bars are sourced by human trafficking, or the Bangladeshi poor girls who come and are forced into flesh trade in India. Very unfortunate part, but there is a huge racket around it, and there are huge international lobbies who are working to ensure that This human trafficking continues because many of those Bangladeshi girls then from India are shipped to various other places. Now, coming back to this story, this was a brief so that people know what is the dance bar all about. You know, Sachin Vaze, this police officer, got instructions from the Home Minister of Maharashtra to collect 100 crores per month, and he was charging 200 to 300,000 rupees to every dance bar per month as a extortion to run the business, and that was officially happening. Now, in this kind of situation, and worst being that he planted gelatin sticks in a SUV near Mukesh Ambani's residence. Mukesh Ambani is the largest industrialist in India. We can say the 10th or the 11th richest man in the world. His company contributes around 3% of the total taxes, 3% of the GDP and 6% of the taxes of the country. Single one company. Imagine that kind of person is threatened. What happens to governance? And this could be the other reason why Mr. Agarwal preferred Gujarat or Maharashtra. But these are serious concerns. Coming back to the Sangli murder of attack on monks, the sadhus, I believe it is done with a very carefully planned strategy because now they want to attack the BJP government, because when sadhus were murdered in Palghar, which had created a huge outrage, BJP was attacking Shiv Sena that what is your Hindutva? You couldn't save the sadhus, you could not take action against the people who attacked sadhus. Rather, you handed over the sadhus to the mob for being lynched. So this is a subtle message which will be used in the future for a narrative that see even BJP cannot save sadhus and they are accusing us. Okay, this is the game that I am able to understand from whatever data I have with me. So it is unfortunate, but we know who attacked them, the community of the people who attacked them, the political parties who are backing that community, and the community aligned with the political parties. So it is very simple to understand what is the underlying intent. Aditya ji.
See, India has far too much freedom because of the Vedic culture, because people can question everything. The West doesn't have that freedom because there is a monolithic view, and we know the history. Anyone who disagreed with the church was killed or he was kicked out. So America is having problem when people asking questions who don't have a European mindset. So when the blacks and the browns and gradually the Indian voices are increasing, and so we are questioning everything, and they don't like it because they're used to just living in one way. I mean, you'll be shocked to know that even if the worst of economic crisis going on, not a single European origin American is questioning anything on the ground. They're accepting everything because that's how they've been trained. They're not trained to question. And questioning means aggression. So you can be killed for questioning on the streets. So, which is what is happening. And you can regularly see Facebook. Most of the people post, I'm in the Facebook jail. Now that they proudly say it on the Facebook, I'm in a Facebook jail. Because that's a mindset. If anyone questions too much, it's considered offensive, and they immediately
community standard. It violates the community standards.
It's the way they have been trained by the church to just be obedient, listen, and that's why
this
they
is
don't.
where we can go back to Shankaracharya, who said neti neti, not this. So we keep on exploring. What is it that you look at it? There is a saying in Sanskrit, pinde pinde mati bhinnata, which is that every person, pind means also person, every person will have a different thought process. That is mati bhinnata. Mati means thought or mind, and bhinnata means difference. Okay, so this is something which is part of the civilizational values that we carry for maybe how many thousands of years, Aditya ji? Maybe 5, 7, 10,000 years at least documented. This is something which is lacking in the civilizations other than India, and that is why we are seeing problems, be it in Pakistan, be it in China. In China, we are seeing the Han Chinese oppressing the Tibetans, oppressing the Uyghur Muslims. There is no democracy in Hong Kong. Even within China, other than the Communist Party, nobody can speak. So in a way, when I don't see any difference between the religious systems and the communist ideology, because both these sides, the religious and the non-religious, that is the communist, ensure that there is only one monolithic view. There cannot be an alternate view, there cannot be a dissenting view. Very unfortunate, but in this kind of situation, New ideas don't come up very easily. And there's of course suppression of the rebellious ideas or the novel ideas, which doesn't happen in India.
See the there are pros and cons of being questioned and as well as not questioning. Pros are that you can get more ideas, just like you said, bhinna bhinna. So you get more ideas. But the con is also that you have many voices and you have to manage all of them. And and expecting everyone to become quiet is not good because then you have no participation in the democracy. Lokatantra. Lok so
Lokatantra.
so Lokatantra is different than democracy. I've written a lot in my book also. Lokatantra is a little bit different than democracy. Democracy means majority rules, and that's what the democracy is. Europeans rule because they're majority, but now their numbers are less than 70% in the U.S. European origin Americans, even though they are mixed up with everybody, but the real numbers are less. People who are having that same European mindset is less now. But the systems are still designed for the old system. Now no more like if you speak anything against the system, I mean you can be soft banned, and if you go too much against, you can be hard banned. And people the and also the second part is access to justice, which I see a serious problem in the US also and in India tremendously, because the justice is available for people who have money. That's how the Bollywood is able to get away with it. They could buy the police, they could buy the state, they could buy the everyone, and now people are questioning it. I mean, it is a citizens movement which is questioning Bollywood, not the government, not the administration. Nobody is questioning. It's the citizens who are boycotting it. So my last question to you in this series is that the it all it all flows to the economy. It all flows to the economy. Sentiments go up, sentiments go down. If people are happy, they buy more things. If people are not happy, they don't buy. So that's how it is connected. That's why in the all the Diwali season, the music is very favorable to shopping. People buy. So just tell me, if you want to evaluate on the happiness index of people today, uh, which is contributing in India and rest of the world, what do you see?
I see all these happiness index and sadness index and this index, development index and non-development index. All these are funny things made by some very funny, unemployable economists who want to keep on manufacturing some or the other theory to just remain in circulation. S- You know, India's happiness index was way below Sri Lanka. India's development index was way below Sri Lanka. India's happiness index was below Bangladesh and Pakistan, and there were huge headlines that India is for behind Pakistan and behind Bangladesh and behind Sri Lanka. What is the situation today? Today, my associates are traveling to Sri Lanka to advise the people over there on how to generate foreign currency and exports. These all factors. I'll tell you something that Buddha said. uh, when he left the house and he was searching what is the reason for unhappiness and what is the source of happiness. So there were various things that he started with that jati vi dukkha, vyadhi vi dukkha, age or vyadhi vi dukkha, vruddha, age is means birth is a pain, uh, ill health is a pain, disease is a pain, that is the reason for unhappiness. Then it is old age, and then it is death. Then he went across to say that okay, what I like to hear and I don't get to hear, that is dukkha. What I want to hear, what I don't like to hear but I have to hear, that is dukkha. So what is sukh, what is happiness? It is totally wired. I can be hungry, but if I am living in a very peaceful life, I would be. There are many people in India who don't get one square meal, hardly get one square meal in a day, but they are happy. They eat one square meal, they go to the temple, they are doing bhajan, they are happy. There are people without children who don't have anything, whereas there is other section where there are people with children, but then they are stressed that oh, my children are fighting, how do I manage? It is totally a state of mind. How can an economist who wants to create an index create all this happiness index? I think that is stupidity. Those great Nobel laureates who manufactured these kind of indices only to remain in circulation and get some recognition, I don't agree with them. Happiness is within, not outside. I cannot make an index of even my happiness. It is my state of mind as of now. So I will not comment on it, but I believe Indians are more happy because they are more spiritually connected. Go to a village, they don't have electricity for 3 hours, and they will be saying, "ठीक है, I am sitting in my, I will sit in the home temple and I will meditate. 3 घंटा, 3 hours there was no no electricity. I meditated." They get in Gujarat initially when Prime Minister Modi became the CM. The first thing he understood is at least provide electricity in the night during the dinner time so that people can see what the women can cook and men and others can eat in the light. Okay, that was the intent. From there it expanded, and we reached from 6 hours, 8 hours to 12 hours, 14 hours kind of power availability, and then thereafter Gujarat became a power surplus state. But people were happy with even that half an hour. Oh, I'm very happy for half an hour. My wife can cook and I can eat. I can see what I'm eating. I don't need to burn a candle or use a lantern to provide me light. And people were happy. Now, how do you see? Sitting in America, average American will say, "Oh my God, those people are so unhappy," whereas these people are very happy. They say, "I am getting it for half an hour." Now, how do you prepare an index of that? How do you analyze the mindset and the belief systems when there is a death of last fortnight my friend's father passed away, and people are saying you should be happy, he lived a full life and he served the people, and you see the way people are coming out to pay respects to him, and he was he did not have to suffer. Now death is a reason for people to mourn or people to celebrate that, yeah, he lived a good life. Now a person should be happy or should be sad. How do we analyze it? It is totally a belief system and the civilizational values that you create and carry forward. You can't create any index out of it to analyze whether India is better or India is worst or some other country is better or some other country is worst. I would not compare any country on these parameters. Aditya ji.
You know, that's a great point, and I also don't agree with all the happiness index. In fact, I've said in my show many times, I met a company which the CEO was called Chief Happiness Officer, CHO. and and that company's business is to spread happiness. So yeah, they're making good money. They're based in, see, in the USA. One good thing here is any idea sells. Every idea sells. Any or every idea sells. So it was a very interesting to see Chief Happiness Officer. But nonetheless, thank you so much, Dhumiji, for coming. And we did discuss varieties of things. This is the only show where I discuss economics, and I have a keen interest in that because it is connected to Dharma. So thank you so much, Sumitji. And for all the viewers, do like, share, subscribe, and let us know your feedback. Namaste.
Thank you, Aditya ji. Thank you for having me here. Good evening and have a great day.
Namaste.